It is. All right. So recap of what I've learned since the last journal entry. This is the first, like with the last time when I didn't really use Python at all. I don't know if you did.
Nope.
No. So I'm new to that. That's been interesting. I guess that's the main new thing I've learned. I guess just progressing along like the understanding of like logic, functions, looping, all that. And as far as what I don't fully understand, I think I'm a little unclear on like how exactly to use the like if and while loops in Python, because like I've been able to like figure it out so far, but I usually break it a couple times before I do. So that is, I guess, what I don't totally understand. Yeah, that's what comes to mind. What about you?
First time learning Python and then a little bit more of the games. And also today we learned just a little bit of HTML, which was pretty fun, and then like more coding in like a Replit sort of platform, so that was new. I don't really understand Python that well. I feel like it's similar to JavaScript, but different enough where like I'm having trouble like applying my knowledge from JavaScript and Khan Academy over into Python and being able to do that. So like for today, it was really hard to get started with the game, but once I got started, I kind of understood like the prompt more and how to get my program actually working, but it was really difficult at first to even know how to just like how to properly use the variables. And once I did learn how to use the variables, it was a lot easier to understand. So I think like definitely working more in Python and working more on like basics would be really helpful for me, because like everyone else seems to progress really fast while I don't still quite understand. So I would like to be able to get up to speed with the rest of the people, especially in the Python language. And it was really helpful to do like a mini hackathon and actually like work hands-on, because it's like when I watch other people do it or listen to their logic, it doesn't help me as much as when I just do it myself too, and help like myself figure out and see the logic through like hands-on interaction and learning. I think that's pretty much what we learned. Except I learned about the movie War Games, which I have never seen before. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's like young Matthew Broderick. Anyway, yeah, I agree. I think the like in-class working is helpful. It's, I don't know, it's kind of like math. Like you can see it, but like you kind of have to do it yourself. And then, yeah, HTML and what's it? CSS? CSS. That's interesting. I don't totally understand it yet, but...
Yeah, it was fun to like play around with the text, but I definitely think it'd be interesting too to like see more how like it all interacts with each other to really create a website, because like at first like the HTML is really just text on a page, but like adding in more and more things there, and through JavaScript and CSS you can make like a really advanced fancy website. So I think it'd be cool definitely to explore more of HTML, which I know you already have planned, but I would like to see more of that, and like website design would be a cool venue to kind of look at.
Yeah. And also, like, I'm curious about, like, what is the reasoning behind having, like, HTML and CSS and JavaScript all be separate things? Because, like, it seems like all this stuff is something you could kind of do in JavaScript. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm sure there's people smarter than me have figured out a reason that it should be separated. But, yeah, I'd like to understand the thinking. Possible future directions. Yeah, I think just more moving towards... I guess this game project is probably going to be a lot more involved than the last one. Yeah, I think everyone's games are just going to be like text-based for the most part, but I'm curious like how you would go about having a game or any sort of application that works like outside of just the little like text command line thing. Because like in real life when I'm using a computer, like I never bring up like the terminal and like it's not, you know.
Yeah, I think like the game is super fun, and like being able to think of how to like properly apply all these skills to make something like fun and interactive. And it was a really good exercise to do the game both ways, where like the way where the computer guessed for us, then also seeing the inverse. So like that kind of helped me understand more too, is doing the inverse of it all, so I could see how the same things apply but in different contexts. I'm glad we're doing games. That was one of the things that I wanted to do in the future directions. Other future directions, I think like websites are cool. I think honestly I'd be really interested too in learning more about just like the history of computer science. And I know I talked a little bit in my last video about like all the things about Alan Turing were very interesting, and like I had watched the movie and like understood a little bit about his story, but like maybe too how like languages came together and like what was the reasoning behind them, like having Python versus JavaScript and developing even more languages. Because I was thinking like in the platform of like Replit, where you have the three different little sections going, that like if you need all of them to interact with each other, or you can just have like one language that kind of does the processes of all of them, or if there must be like separate languages that each have their own limits or serve to like help the limits of others, so like where they don't have. So
yeah. Well, and also maybe this is like a weird question or like beyond the scope of this class, but like I don't really understand what goes on between like the physical like electronics of a computer and like a programming language. Like how does the like all the little electronic doodads interpret like text and make the program happen?
Yeah, definitely. Like I think maybe too that would help me like understand the languages and programs a little bit more, because I'm still just having trouble with like knowing what I want it to do and knowing that it can do it, but being able to like actually tell it that. And it might be interesting to learn like really the process behind it. I'm sure it's super complicated, but if there is like a simpler explanation or just a little bit we can know about it to help like understand when you tell a computer to do something, like what it's actually like doing and computing and then putting it there. So like when we first started coding in Khan Academy, and you had to like redraw the entire picture, because I didn't really realize that like when it was doing that, it was redrawing it every time, and I thought like it would just add on to it, and that was a really interesting perspective. So when I was coding further, I was considering things like that, like, oh, how this is like redrawing every time, so this is where I should put all these things if I want it to stay like a cohesive picture, or like when you add it in motion as well.
Yeah, I think that's kind of all I have to say.
Yeah, that's
anything else future direction wise?
pretty much it for me.
All right, signing off.